3 months after Omalicha returned the golden anklet to the river, peace filled the land of Idu. She was now the royal bride, loved by many, admired by everyone. Her beauty was like the morning sun, her smile was like the evening moon, and her kindness melted hearts of servants and nobles. But deep in the palace, not everybody celebrated her joy. There was a jealous eye watching her every move, and soon a plan would begin. The sun rose gently over the golden rooftops of Idu. The sweet voices of birds danced through the air. In the palace courtyard, servants swept the tiled floor. The cooks were making pounded yam with steered stews rich with spices. Omalicha opened her window and smiled. She wore a soft wrapper and had coral beads in her hair. Even though she was now a princess, she lived simply. She still helped the maids carry water. She smiled at the guards and called them by name. When the rain came, she made her late mother's pepper soup for the prince, just like she used to in the village. The people loved her for that. She is kind, they whispered. Reality has not changed her. But in a darker corner of the palace, someone was watching, and she was not smiling. In the far side of the palace lived Princess Adaku. She was the late king's cousin's daughter. She was tall and full of pride. Before Omalicha came, Adaku thought she would marry the prince. She had always seen herself as the next queen. She's just a barefoot village girl, she told her maid Uju. She doesn't belong here. But the people love her, Uju whispered. Even the guards say she brings peace. Adaku's eyes turned cold. Let them love her. One day they will hate her. I will make sure of it. And with that, Adaku's plan began. A week before the engagement celebration, Omalicha received a beautiful basket of gifts. Beads, wrappers, perfumes. A palace guard claimed it was sent by the prince. Omalicha was so happy, she was grateful. She took the basket and opened it in her room, but something felt odd. Her little cousin Uzo, who had followed her to the palace that day, peeped into the basket and screamed, "A snake!" Omalicha dropped the basket and jumped back in shock. The palace guards came running. Inside the basket was a curled, venomous green mamba. Everyone was horrified, but the note attached to the basket simply said, "From your secret admirer." The prince insisted he never sent such a gift. Suspicion filled the air, but no one could trace where it came from. Princess Adaku, watching from a distance, gritted her teeth. Ugh! How did she survive that one? Later that week, Omalicha was invited to join the palace maidens for a feast rehearsal. As she ascended the back stairs, she heard a servant shouted a warning. Water had been poured on the steps, mixed with palm oil. Another maid had slipped and injured her ankle. Immediately, the stairs were quickly cleaned before Omalicha got there. But what no one knew was that Princess Adaku had bribed the servant to spill the oil quietly, aiming for Omalicha to fall and break her leg. Adaku watched from a window, waiting for the scream, but it never came. Omalicha had chosen to use the front entrance instead because she was carrying her friend's baby. Again, she escaped unknowingly. Adaku was furious. Oh my goodness, what's going on? I need to come up with the surest plan. I must get rid of Omalicha. The night before the celebration, Omalicha had trouble sleeping. She kept hearing whispers, something didn't feel right. She lifted her pillow and found a tiny black pouch. A charm made of red feathers, cowries, and a lizard tail. Her heart raced. She ran to the palace priestess, who immediately performed a cleansing ritual. "This is an evil charm," she said, "meant to make you mad before morning." Omalicha burst into tears. Again, no one knew who planted it, but that night, the guards increased their watch. The palace was not alert, and still, Princess Adaku remained unsuspected. One afternoon, Adaku knocked on Omalicha's chamber door with a wide smile. "Sister," she said sweetly, "I brought you something." She held a wooden box with shiny beads and perfumes from the north. Omalicha was surprised. "Wow! Thank you, sister." They hugged, or at least Omalicha did, because Adaku only touched her back lightly. Inside the box was also a small glass bottle. "This is a special perfume," Adaku said. "It's called Royal Bloom. The prince will love it." Omalicha smiled. "Oh, you're so kind." But Adaku wasn't kind. That bottle did not contain perfume. It was something else. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, the palace filled with soft candlelight and quiet music. The prince, tall and proud, sat by the window in his private chamber, holding the small bottle of Royal Bloom perfume in his hands. He studied it carefully. Omalicha had placed it on the table beside his chair, smiling warmly as she did. But the prince's eyes were sharp and careful. He had noticed the changes in the palace lately. Whispers behind closed doors, strange looks from the guards, and a coldness in Princess Adaku's gaze. He smelled the perfume cautiously. It was sweet like flowers and honey, but something about it felt strange. "Is this really just a perfume?" he wondered out loud. Omalicha entered the room softly. "The princess gave it to you, my prince. She said you would like it." The prince looked at her, his eyes filled with concern. "Omalicha, do you trust her?" Omalicha shook her head gently. "I want to, but something does not feel right." The prince sighed deeply. "I will watch closely. I will protect you." He kissed her hand, promising silently that no harm would come to her while he was alive. The next morning, the palace buzzed with the news of a grand feast to celebrate the harvest. The people of Idu would gather to honor the gods, dance beneath the stars, and thank the river for its blessings. Omalicha wore her finest clothes, a bright wrapper embroidered with gold threads, and her coral beads glowed like tiny flames in the sunlight. She smiled as she walked through the courtyard, greeting everyone with warmth. But hidden beneath her smiles was a quiet fear. The prince was uneasy too. He had spoken with the royal healer, an old woman named Mama Ife. She was wise in the ways of herbs and magic. Mama Ife took the bottle of perfume and examined it with sharp eyes. "This is no perfume," she whispered. "It is poison, crafted from the deadly nightshade plant mixed with a sleeping spell." Omalicha gasped, clutching the bottle tightly. "Who would do this?" she asked. Mama Ife's face grew dark. "Someone jealous. Someone who wants to harm you and the prince." The prince's jaw tightened. "Then we must act quickly," said the prince. Meanwhile, Adaku was still planning lots of dangerous acts. That night, under a sky filled with stars, the prince and Omalicha met in the secret garden behind the palace. Mama Ife was there, along with a few trusted guards. "We will protect you, Omalicha," the prince promised. Mama Ife handed Omalicha a small bag of herbs. "Take these. They will strengthen your body and clear your mind. Drink the water mixed with this before the feast." Omalicha nodded, feeling the weight of her new life. It was no longer just about kindness and love. It was about survival. "We must be careful," the prince said, his voice low. "Adaku's anger runs deep, but so does my love for you." Omalicha smiled. "Then we will face whatever comes together." As the moon rose high, they prepared for the feast and for the battle that lay hidden in smiles and shadows. On the day of the engagement, Princess Adaku knew it was her last chance. She volunteered to serve the first toast, a gesture of goodwill. Princess Adaku now has a chance. Now she can poison the goblet to harm Omalicha, not knowing it will backfire. The palace courtyard was alive with music, laughter, and the bright colors of the harvest festival. Long tables were filled with plates of roasted yams, fresh fish, and sweet palm wine. The people of Idu danced around the fire, their feet moving in time with the drums. And Omalicha, she wore a radiant smile, but her heart beat fast. The prince stood beside her, proud and watchful. His eyes were scanning the crowd for any sign of danger. Princess Adaku was there too, dressed in her red gown. Her face calm, but her eyes were cold as ice. She greeted Omalicha with a polite nod, but the prince could see the hatred hidden beneath. The feast was a test, a place where secrets will be revealed and true intentions will be shown. As the moon climbed high, the king rose from his seat to make a toast. The goblet had been switched by the servants. Unknowingly, the king now has the poisoned goblet. "Tonight we celebrate peace, love, and the future of Idu," he declared, lifting his cup high. Everyone raised their cups in reply. The prince took a sip of his drink, then passed the cup to Omalicha. She smiled and took a small sip, but inside, she was alert. Just as the people of Idu raised their glasses to celebrate the prince's engagement to Omalicha, the king suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed. A loud cry broke out in the hall. "The king! The king!" Prisikena rushed to his father's side as the guards surrounded him. A palace herbalist was called immediately. The guests panicked. Amidst the chaos, Omalicha's eyes shifted to Princess Adaku, who stood frozen, trembling. The herbalist examined the king and shouted, "This is not natural! Someone has poisoned the royal wine." Gasps echoed through the hall. Omalicha stepped forward with courage and pointed at Adaku. "Check the goblet she gave him," Omalicha said. Her voice was firm. The guards seized the goblet and the palace sorcerer was called to test the wine. In a few moments, the truth was clear. "It contains a slow-acting poison," the sorcerer confirmed gravely. Princess Adaku broke into tears. Her knees gave way and she fell to the floor. "I didn't mean to harm him," she cried. "I only wanted to delay the engagement. I didn't know it would affect the king." The crowd was stunned. Even the queen mother wept silently, turning away in shame. "You did all this just because of jealousy?" Prisikena asked, his voice filled with pain. I thought I deserved you. I thought if I removed her, you would see me, Adaku said, crying. The king groaned weakly, opening his eyes. He whispered, "Justice must be served." The royal council gathered, and after long deliberation, the king, though still weak, made a royal decree. Princess Adaku shall be stripped of her royal title and sent to the village of the river folk to serve as a helper for 1 full year. Let her learn humility and kindness from those she once looked down on. Adaku wept bitterly. It was a great fall from grace to grass, but a fair one. She turned to Omalicha. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I hope one day you can forgive me." Omalicha nodded, soft-hearted as always. "I already have, but some lessons must be learned the hard way." After the incident, the prince postponed the engagement to allow the kingdom time to heal. Months later, when the king fully recovered, a grand wedding was held. Omalicha walked down the palace steps in a dress woven with golden threads, smiling with grace. Prince Ikena waited for her at the altar, proud and thankful. The people cheered, not just for their new princess, but for the power of goodness, truth, and inner beauty. Even Adaku, now humbler and wiser, returned after a year of service, no longer spoiled or proud. She was welcomed, not as a princess, but as a changed woman, and thus peace returned to Idu, and love, as always, had the final say. The end. If you loved this video, which I know you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Lens Folktales for more videos. Thank you, and see you in the next video.